Abu Dhabi 2021. 3 words that will forever be etched into the collective consciousness of Formula One fans today, tomorrow, and forever. But what if things went the other way round? What if instead of being denied his 8th world title, Lewis won it? What if instead of taking his first of likely many, Max was still waiting? Today, with the help of my fairly decent Photoshop knowledge, I want to take you through that very scenario. Verstappen and Hamilton's roles are reversed, as are Perez and Bottas. Why? Just over a year ago, August 21st, 2021, I published a video taking some of F1's most controversial incidents of recent times, swapped the drivers around in Photoshop, and asked you lot to be honest with yourselves and judge whether that changed your perspective. I didn't touch Abu Dhabi, because at the time it hadn't happened yet. But now the dust has somewhat settled, let's take a look at AD21 in reverse. And obviously one final thing, I get this is still a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, and rightly so. I encourage healthy debate, especially in the comments, but if you can't keep it respectful, then this ain't the video for you. In fact, 2 secs. Maybe the fact I'm not joined just by one, but 2 sausage dogs might make this one a little bit more palatable. We're looking after Ollie for a few days, so you've got your best mate back, Minton. Look at him. I've broken this video into 6 parts, starting, of course, where you would typically start, which is part 1, the start of the race. Now, qualifying wise, Lewis was able to put it on pole, P1, Max P2. Of course, it was them 2 at the front. No brainer last year. And the 2 decided to go for different tyre strategies. So Lewis starting first went for the soft, whereas Max starting second went for the medium. The idea for this is to break away on the soft tyre at the start, build a lead and go from there, right? It would have been a big issue if Max was able to find his way up the inside into turn 1 for Lewis, which is exactly what he did. Lewis bogged down off the start. Max got the jump on him and made a decisive move into turn 1. It wasn't even that close in the end because he just had way more speed. It's a very early drama to kick things off. Advantage Verstappen. Now, of course, it's lap 1, so there's no DRS yet. However, Lewis knows that he needs to get this move done pronto so he can make the most of his lovely, fresh, soft tyres. He's losing tyre performance the longer he's behind Verstappen. And turn 6, he sees the opportunity because part 2 is, of course, the lunge. That juicy lunge we saw right at the start. And this is a big talking point for sure. It feels like this move very much caught Verstappen by surprise. Even Crofty on the comms was just chatting about the McLaren and Ferraris battling behind. And all of a sudden they were like, bloody hell, Lewis has sent it up the inside. And again, by the look of how Verstappen kind of tried to turn in and then the car was there, it feels like he didn't see it coming either. Now, looking at this incident, Hamilton was ahead at the apex and was able to get the car slowed down enough to keep at least some tyre within the confines of the track. But Verstappen felt he was squeezed off, and because of the nature of Abu Dhabi, where there is runoff, he just kind of straight lined it and retained P1. Mercedes were not happy about this, got onto the stewards, but they decided that no further action was necessary. In fact, in the words of Michael Massey, the stewards have reviewed it and determined that all of the lasting advantage was gained, and Lewis forced that position there, so they've said they're reviewing it, but they're not investigating it. So, no change. Verstappen still in front on the mediums, Lewis still behind on the softs until part 3, the defence. From P2, Lewis pitted for his own hard tyre on lap 14, and Max responded 1 lap later, sticking on the hards on lap 15. Just mirroring the strategy of the car behind made sense for Max to do in this scenario. However, at this stage, Mercedes hadn't pitted their second car, their second driver, Valtteri Bottas, who was still out on track on his soft tyres, now leading the race technically. It took just 5 laps, so by lap 20, Max on his fresh hards had caught up to Valtteri on his old, very degraded by this stage, soft tyres. And this is where the Finnish Ministry of Defence came in. Because I tell you what, Valtteri put one hell of a fight up. Max pulls past Valtteri, heading down the straight towards turn 6 with the help of DRS by this stage. But Bottas was able to throw his car back up the inside to hug the apex. Max is able to pull off some kind of cutback here out of turn 7, and finally, at least according to Brundle on the comms, it looked like it was done. However, Valtteri was able to pass the second DRS detection line behind Max Verstappen, so was able to repass down the straight and retake position going into the long sweep in turn 9. And this is super important because even on the new reprofiled Abu Dhabi track, after turn 9, there's not really any overtaking opportunities for the rest of the lap until, the hairpin turn 4, which allowed Bottas to slam on the anchors and really hold up Max, which was doing Lewis a hell of a lot of good. Before that defence started, the gap between Max and Lewis was 8.5 seconds. With the help of Bottas, it was just over 1. He was literally right there. Part 4, the classic Alfa Romeos. Between laps 21 and 53, we saw both Alfa Romeos retire. Kimi was able to limp back to the pits after a seeming brake issue failure meant he just about grazed the wall, and Giovinazzi pulled up as well. Because Kimi was able to keep it going again, there was no VSC, there was no safety car, just yellow flags. But Antonio, that was a different story. This VSC gave Lewis, who again was still running P2 at the time, an opportunity to pit with minimal time loss for another fresh set of the hard tyre. At the end of the day, on this day, the Mercedes weren't going to outpace the Red Bull. It didn't look like they had the race pace to really fight with Verstappen. So trying something a bit different on strategy was the move to make, The dice needed to be rolled. Unfortunately for Lewis, it was looking like it wasn't going to pay off. The gap between himself and Max before he pitted was 17 seconds. Yet after he'd pitted for the fresh hards, and by lap 53, he'd only got that gap down to 12. It wasn't anywhere near enough. He wasn't going to catch Verstappen in time. Lewis was going to need something, a stroke of complete luck, something out of his control to fall into place to give him a sniff at winning this championship. And that's exactly what happened. Part 5, Lady Luck. On lap 53, after battling with Mick Schumacher in the Haas around Sector 3, Nicholas Latifi lost control of his Williams through turn 14, oversteering into the wall and prematurely ending his race. With Max still leading the race at this time, again a 12-second buffer between him and Lewis Hamilton, Red Bull decided not to pit him. A, because it would have lost track position to Lewis, but B, he encountered the Latifi shunt very soon after it happened. He was coming up to lap him, so there wasn't much time for them to react, even if they had wanted to pit him. I mean, when Max passed him, the track was still just under yellow flags. No VSC or safety car had been called at this stage, even though this was a shunt that was clearly going to require a safety car at a bare minimum. So Lewis once again rolled the dice, 12 seconds behind. Take this opportunity. The leader hasn't pitted. Stick on a fresh set of soft tyres. He was hoping the race would restart after the safety car so he would be right behind Max and make that tyre advantage pay dividends. Question was, would they be able to clear the incident and get the race restarted with only 5 laps to go? This all happened on lap 53 of 58, remember. Would we have enough time to get the racing going again, or would the 2021 World Championship finish under a safety car? Part 6, the last lap. Great name for a race watch-along show, by the way. Link below. Podcast as well. It's banging. You don't need me to remind you what happened regarding the safety car. And again, this isn't so much about that. I'm not debating the merits of whether the safety car should be brought in or not. I'm just flipping the perspective to see if that changes your view on it. Because the race would restart with 1 racing lap, Max Verstappen ahead on used hards, Lewis Hamilton behind on fresh softs. Could he get the move done? Lewis certainly wasn't giving Max much room to breathe. He was harrying him through that final sector, but Max decided eventually to get his foot down and start the last lap of that ridiculous 2021 season. Energy was high. People were confused. However you feel about it, it was a moment. Max gets an okay getaway, but Lewis has that fresher tyre compound, so he's able to stay close through turn 1, 2, 3, 4. Then into turn 5. Lewis absolutely sends it up the inside, squares off the corner, goes braking straight towards the apex. This compromises Max's exit, which means he gets ahead. Lewis Hamilton is leading out of turn 5 on the final lap. Can Max do anything about it? There's a bit of weaving down the straight heading towards turn 6 on the cusp of legal. That was a little bit naughty from Lewis going down there because weaving's not allowed, but they let it go. Lewis compromises his line into turn 6 to defend the inside, which means Max gets that nice outward turn in and can get a bit of a cutback. Even though he's on more used tyres, he gets a much better line through turn 6 and 7. There is of course another DRS zone heading down into turn 9 and Max is right on the back of Lewis. This is it, now or never. There's no more overtaking opportunities. He has to get it done now. Red Bull are kicking up a stink. Christian Horner's on the radio. No, Michael, no, this is so not right. Famous iconic lines from Christian Horner. Lewis defends the inside, so Max has to go wide and try and carry the speed around the outside of the corner. They get so close to touching. There must have been like centimetres between them at the time. Max gets marginally ahead, but he's got the tyre disadvantage. He's on the outside. Lewis protects turn 9. He keeps position and he wins the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and wins the 2021 F1 World Championship, making it 8th, the winningest driver of all time. I hope you gave this one an honest go, whether you're a Max fan or a Lewis fan or somewhere in the middle. It's obviously fair to say that if the shoe was on the other foot, a lot of fans' behaviour would have been, you know, very much the opposite. Look, all I hope from this video is that it's been thought-provoking and maybe you've looked at this from a different perspective that you might have. Maybe your perspective hasn't changed and that's fine. I don't know. I think it's really interesting to ponder stuff like this with sport because sport is so polarising. We saw that more than ever last year. And I hope we as fans can learn from what happened because things went wrong on track and off it. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn your notification bell on so you don't miss any of my new stuff. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.